So once again, good morning to all of you. I believe some of our attendees are still logging in, but let's just begin, and they can continue from once they log in. So first of all, good morning all for giving me time on your Saturday morning. I'm sure you had a lot of important things to do, and I sincerely appreciate you spending your time with me to understand this program better. I'm planning this webinar for roughly 60 minutes, wherein the idea is to give you more information about the program. And I have a slide here on agenda. So the agenda is understanding the program. And the way we'll do this is by taking answers to commonly asked questions. So I have a few slides that covers the commonly asked questions basis my interaction with several candidates. I'm hopeful that most of your questions would also be answered within these. But however, if there are questions that fall out of the ambit of these questions, feel free to type them out through your questions tab, and I shall try and answer each and every question that comes my way. And finally, towards the end, we'll also cover the status quo of the admission process, since some of you who are attending today's webinar would be in the process of still securing an admission. And we'll also cover in terms of how can you begin preparing for the program even before the classes start. So with that kind of an introduction, let me now move ahead and let's begin this webinar. First of all, a brief introduction about Great Lakes Postgraduate Program in Business Analytics. I'm sure all of you would be aware of these facts, but just to reiterate them. As you know, PGPBA is 11-month executive management program for working professionals. And this is probably the only program that is designed and delivered to focus on business roles in analytics. So, business roles in analytics is a keyword that you're going to hear quite a number of times during this webinar, and I will try and explain in terms of why are we doing so, why is the focus on business roles, and what does that really mean. The format is a blended format, which means there would be classroom sessions and online learning, uh, with the idea that the calendar is prepared in such a manner that it should cause minimum disruption to your work. We are very fortunate and honored to be endorsed by some of the leading analytics organizations who have participated and collaborated with us to co design and co deliver this program. And in terms of recognition, Great Lakes PGPBA is ranked amongst the top three business analytics programs of the country. And what adds value to that recognition is that it also happens to be the youngest program in the league of the top three programs. So that is again a great recognition coming from the industry in terms of the way we have designed and delivered this program. So we are currently in the midst of admissions, as you all know, and the next set of batches begin in December 2014. For Gurgaon, we begin on December 5th, and for Chennai, we begin on December 12th. The ideal guideline is to have around 50 students in each batch, and in terms of admissions, we are now in the last cycle of admissions, and the figure here is slightly dated. My apologies for that, but as things stand as of today, we have closed about 90% of the class. So we are now in the process of admitting the last 10% of candidates, and that is where we are. I have already started noticing that there are a few questions that are coming my way. I will definitely answer them just as I conclude on a few slides. All right. So let's begin with looking at the commonly asked questions. And as I said, I'm hopeful that most of the questions mentioned here would also be your questions. So they would probably cover the facts and information that you're looking for. But however, if you have questions out of which are not covered here, please feel free to type these out, and I shall definitely take them. So the first and foremost question is, who should pursue this course? The answer is quite simple, actually. What we tell every candidate who applies to the program is that if you should pursue this program, or you should look to learn from this program only and only if you aspire to, and if you are interested to transition your career to business roles in analytics. So the focus is business roles in analytics. Now, when you look at the analytics landscape and the analytics industry as such, you would realize that there are a couple of career tracks that you can pursue. One is, of course, a technical career track, wherein you will gain more and more competencies on programming, on coding, on building a technical architecture, and so on and so forth, and on more in terms of data management and data collection and data querying, right, and less on analytics as such. So that is definitely a very viable career option to pursue, and there are a lot of opportunities also on that front. Uh, but that is not the focus of this program. The focus of this program is on the business side. So the business, track or business line of career is the other track, wherein you are essentially looking at data, and you're trying to make business sense out of that data. So with that context, if I were to put the program's learning outcome or learning objective into a simple single sentence, it would be something like this: that by doing this program, you should gain the skill sets and the abilities to look at unstructured data problems and convert them into actual tangible business insights and business decisions. So the idea is, we are trying to train people to take data driven decisions. But of course, that is easier said than done. It doesn't happen by itself. So you have to go through a process. You need to begin by understanding the business scenario where analytics is applied. Secondly, you need to understand analytics as a concept, as a subject, and that is a field of study in itself. I for one don't believe that you can learn analytics in 20 hours or 30 hours, right? You would probably need 30 hours to learn statistics to begin with, right? So analytics is a lot more than that. And the last bit is in terms of, you should have a hands-on exposure on how are these problems being solved in the industry, which tools are used, how are these tools used, how do you apply these tools to solve data problems. So hence, this is the overall scope of business roles in analytics, and that is where the program is focused on. And this is also something that we designed in collaboration with the industry. So at this point in time, I must tell you that Great Lakes was one of the first business schools in the country to set up a dedicated center of excellence in analytics, and this was roughly about 2.5 to 3 years back. And through the center, we had the opportunity to work with a lot of leading analytics organizations, many of whom are now our corporate partners for the program. And this collaboration was more in terms of research, in terms of consulting, in terms of training their employees, and so on. But during the course of this collaborative work, there was a common demand that came from across these organizations, and that was that how all of them were struggling for lateral talent in analytics, especially on the business side. And while they wanted to build this talent by hiring experienced professionals from other sectors, what they realized is that these experienced professionals were not skilled or trained for these business roles, and hence there was a gap. So that is when many of them collaborated with Great Lakes to put together this program that can address this gap and that can train the candidates the way industry wants them, and thereby try and fill this talent gap that many of the companies are facing. So that is how this whole thought process behind business roles in analytics came about, and we have only been validated in this analysis ever since. It is also important for me to dispel some myths, because when I speak to candidates, more often than not, there are a lot of preconceived notions that I come across. First and foremost is that candidates feel that analytics is all technical, and I don't think that is true. I think the confusion arises because you need technology to handle, manage, and query data, which is obvious, right? But that does not mean that analytics is that. Just because you are really good at SAS programming doesn't mean that you are going to be good in analytics. We need to or for that matter, just because you're really good at any kind of querying language does not mean that you're a natural fit for analytics. It is very important to create a distinction between what analytics does and what enables analytics. So technology by all means enables analytics, right? So you should be conversant with technology. You should know how to work with technology. But analytics is not, at the end of the day, analytics is not technical. Analytics actually is all business. The value that analytics brings to the table is what can business take out of it, right? And it is as simple as that. Analytics will make no sense if there is no business decision that you can actually derive out of the data. So, for all candidates who are focused on building a career in analytics or making analytics a key skill set in your arsenal, what you really need to understand is that you are going to use analytics to actually drive decisions. And that is the skill set that you need to build. The second myth that often a lot of candidates have is that you need to be an engineer or a statistician to be good in analytics. Well, nothing can be farther from the truth because, and there are a couple of data points here. The first data point is that if you look at the leading analytics organizations in the country, and if you look at their top management and try and see their backgrounds, you would be surprised and pleasantly so in terms of the number of non engineers and non statisticians that exist there. You know, there are people from science background, from commerce background, from liberal arts background who have gone ahead to do fantastically well in analytics. And similarly, even in this program, the PGPBA program, one of our guidelines for admission is to maintain a very healthy diversity. So, hence, we always try and include candidates from different kinds of backgrounds to come and pursue the program. And what we have seen is that some of our best performing candidates are actually not from a quantitative background at all, which means they're not engineers, they've not done their statistics course or quantitative courses. These are probably people from commerce and science, but they do fantastically well, right? So, what will really make you very good in analytics is basically a quantitative bent of mind. You know, that is very different from doing a graduation or an undergraduation in the particular field. So you, as long as you're not averse to numbers, as long as you enjoy working with numbers, you are likely to do well in analytics. And the second bit, which is even more important, is that you should have a problem solving approach. When you start working in analytics, you'll realize that day in and day out, you're working on complex problems. And these problems can only be solved when you actually start thinking like a detective. You know, and I mean, that is the closest analogy that you can get. You have to look at every data problem as a case to be solved and thereby go through a problem solving approach. So, as long as you have these two ingredients, that is, a quantitative bent of mind, which is basically uh, you're not averse to numbers or working with numbers, and secondly, a problem solving approach. I think you have the basic ingredients to do well in analytics. The third myth, and this is by far the most common myth, is that analytics is all about tools. It is surprising and at sometimes unfortunate at the amount of focus that candidates place on tools. And when I say tools, I'm talking about the general suite of tools such as SAS or R or Tableau or Hadoop or any of these for that matter. And something that I try and tell all the candidates that I have an opportunity to speak to, is that learning tools is probably the easiest thing to do. And to learn a tool, you don't really need to go through a program that runs for 1 year and is as exhaustive and as industry oriented as PGPPA. There are so many online resources that exist today that will make you competent, whether it be in SAS or R or Tableau or any other tool for that matter. You should just go ahead and learn that. But the difference that you should understand is that learning a tool is not the same as knowing analytics, right? Tools are only an enabler. Technology is only an enabler. So you have to look at tools as a means and not the end in itself. The end is what kind of business decisions are you able to bring to your organization or to your client by looking at analytics. Let me just give you a use case. Let's say that you are working in an analytics consulting organization, analytics services organization, and let's say the project that you're associated with is in, let's say, retail analytics. Let Just as a case in point, let's say your client is Walmart, where you're looking actually at store transaction data, and the problem that you're trying to solve is that there's this whole Thanksgiving sales coming up, and what should or which products should be combined or what should be bundled so as to ensure that there are windfall profits for Walmart during this Thanksgiving sale. And this is a very, very actual problem to have in the field of analytics. Now, when you are trying to solve this problem and when you are trying to give your recommendation to the team at Walmart, what your client does not care about is what analytics model did you apply, what statistical assumptions did you make, right? Or what technology framework or what tool did you use to go through data or analyze it? The only thing that will actually hold your stead and ensure that you get even more work from Walmart is what are your actual business recommendations on the basis of whatever analysis you've done on data, and secondly, how accurate they are, right? So ultimately the value that you have to bring to the table is data driven decisions, and that is what the focus should be. So don't be overtly focused on tools, because tools will change. And in the last 2 to 3 years itself, we are seeing a massive amount of change in the industry. About 3 years back, SaaS was almost like a monopoly, with over 90% market share. As things stand today, the market share for SaaS has fallen down to 75 or probably closer to 70%, with our gaining acceptance with every passing day, right? What makes any of us believe that in the next 5 years there would not be another tool that would actually displace both these and would emerge as the front runner? So if you build your entire competence just on one tool, you can see how you're going to shortchange your future, because you will just have to keep getting trained on one tool after the other and after the other. Hence, it is important to build a foundational concept or or a very strong foundation on analytics and business, right? Where tools are an enabler. So today you're learning SAS and R in the program. 5 years down the line, if there is another tool, you just pick up that tool, right? But your foundation is still there. So hence it is very important to look beyond tools and understand what analytics is actually about. In the same breath, I must also mention in terms of who are the candidates who should not pursue this course. Well, the first realization that you need to have as a candidate is that this program is designed and delivered to be rigorous and exhaustive. That is because we have a certain commitment to the industry. We have been ranked and rated highly because of this commitment, and we need to ensure that every candidate who goes through the program is actually learning something and is business ready. And that can only happen if there are very strong quality checks in terms of how you're doing in the program. So hence, if you are under any kind of misconceptions that this program is going to be a walk in the park, let me tell you, you cannot be farther from the truth. This is not going to be a walk in the park. This will need you to apply yourself. Of course, we all know that all candidates are working professionals, so it's not as if we expect them to put in 8 hours every day. But a disciplined, concerted approach is required while you are pursuing the program to ensure that your learning is continuous and impactful. The other bit is that this program is evaluation centric. And we don't do any outdated methods of evaluation like an end term exam or anything like that, but quite to the contrary, every subject or every course that you learn in this program is going to be evaluated in itself. And most of these evaluations are going to be highly application oriented, which means in most cases it's going to be a case study or an assignment or a data set driven problem that you will be solving, thereby showcasing how much have you actually learned in the program. And finally, as I have spoken at great lengths about it, uh, pursue this program only and only if you are interested uh, for techno-commercial or business roles in analytics. Don't pursue this program if your interest is on becoming a SaaS programmer or a technical architect or any of that, right? Pursue this program if you actually want to learn how analytics drives businesses and how businesses take data-driven decisions. The second question that I have here, and which is a slightly detailed question, is in terms of how is this course different? So there are a few factors that make the course different, and I would like to take each of these very briefly. So the first factor that is the unique differentiator for the program is the learning objective. And as I was earlier in the earlier slide telling you about the learning outcome for the program, but just for repeating the same, by doing this program, you should gain the skill set and the knowledge to look at unstructured data problems and convert them into business decisions and business insights. That is the learning objective of the program. But to do that, that is a black box in itself, right? How does that process happen? What is the process of converting unstructured data into business decisions, right? And this black box requires you to understand the business scenario, the business context in which analytics will be applied. It needs you to understand analytics as a field of study, and it needs you to understand industry applications, right? And it is so now, if you kind of look back, these are the exact three pillars on which the program is based, the program curriculum is designed, right? So when you go through the curriculum, you would see that we begin with what we call the business foundation, which is where we set the context. We explain the business scenarios where analytics gets applied. So that is why we do a basic primer in marketing, in finance, in supply chain, and so on. And we begin from basic statistics. The next module takes a deep dive into analytics and analytical knowledge and tools. This is where you build from basic statistics, it goes into advanced statistics, then we get into predictive modeling and data mining techniques and data visualization, data optimization, and so on. This is also the module when you will start using the tools that is SAS, R, and Tableau very exhaustively, so that you have good hands-on exposure on these tools. And the last module, the module with which we kind of top up the program, is the industry applied module. This is the module where we have our industry partners and leading analytics professionals come into the classroom and take courses. So I'm not referring to guest lectures, which are like a 1 or 2 hour lectures that happen throughout the program, but these are courses that are being taught by industry professionals. So to give an example, uh, you know, the course in financial and risk analytics domain is taught by a team at American Express, wherein they'll come in, and again, it would not be a pedantic lecture, but it is going to be a very application oriented immersion, which means they're going to give you a data set and a problem to solve, and they are going to walk you through the problem, right? That is the approach that we take in all of these industry applied modules, whether it be financial and risk analytics, marketing and retail analytics, web and social media analytics, supply chain analytics, insurance analytics, and the others. So this is the kind of the landscape of the curriculum, and this is the way you flow through the program. You begin with scenario or context setting. You go into understanding analytics right from basic statistics and applying that using a lot of tools and data sets, and you top it off with high quality, high interaction industry exposure. The next bit that makes the course unique and stand out are, of course, our industry affiliations and industry endorsements. So, as I was saying, we have been extremely fortunate and we feel honored to be associated with some of the leading analytics organizations in the country. The way these companies support us vary from company to company. Most of these companies have collaborated with us right from curriculum design to delivery. There are experts who come in and teach from these organizations. Some of these companies also help us in the Capstone Project, which is a project that every candidate has to do, which is something that I will address in my next in one of my forthcoming slides. And some of these companies also try and recruit from the pool of candidates in PGPBA. And while I am at this slide, I must also tell you that, when we began this program, I think we had three or four companies supporting us. And today that number, in fact, even this slide is not updated because we have companies like Genpact that have now signed up, and Absolute Data that have signed up, and Value Labs. So I can see some prominent names missing here, but the idea being that what began as an association with three to four companies in a span of 12 to 18 months has grown to about 13 to 14 companies. And this is something that we very, very actively work towards, which means that by the time you guys graduate from the program, this number would have grown even further. So the next bit that differentiates the program a lot is in terms of how it is designed and delivered to be application oriented. Let's see this a little more. So, as we were discussing earlier, the intent of the program is to make you business ready. And to be business ready, you should get your hands dirty, right? So, you should have worked on data. You should understand in terms of the challenges that you face while working on data and working on problems. And to some extent, you should have tackled them, right? So, that is why this program is designed and delivered to be completely hands on and application oriented. And the way we do that is that most of the courses that are covered in the program are case study led. So most of the times when you learn a concept, it would be through case studies and you would apply yourself. As I was earlier saying, all evaluations are assignment based, or assignments or projects or data driven problems. They are all, so it's not. So let me put it this way: I don't think you are ever going to see a dissertation based evaluation or a theoretical based evaluation in this program. It is mostly and solely around uh, what have you learned in this specific course and how are you going to apply that to a problem, right? So that is the mode of evaluation that we follow, which again is completely application oriented. We have a virtual lab in the program that gives you the ability to work on data problems and data sets using tools 24 by 7 whenever you want at your own convenience. Capstone Project is a very, very integral part of the program, which is essentially a project that every candidate has to pursue. This is an analytics driven project that you will start, I think, from the seventh month or the sixth month of your program. And this analytics driven project, the Capstone project, would be mentored by an industry faculty as well as a Great Lakes faculty. So that again gives you a lot of exposure. And the last bit, of course, are the industry led modules, which is the final part of the course, wherein we have leading organizations come into the classroom and teach you various facets of different domains in analytics and walk you through the problems as they are faced. The other critical part in the program, and something that is widely appreciated by the candidates, is the multi-domain exposure. So while you are in the program, the last part, which is the industry applied modules, they take you through different domains in analytics, namely financial and risk analytics, retail analytics, web and social media analytics, supply chain analytics, and we also do a bit of insurance analytics, telecom analytics, and healthcare analytics, right? So the idea being, so what before I go any further, let me also uh, tell you how did this come about. So when we were designing the program and when we were working with different companies to put together a curriculum that is highly industry driven and business ready, one of the dilemmas that we faced was, do we focus only on one domain for a candidate, or do we try and give them exposure across multiple domains? And the general consensus in the industry was that it is extremely important to have an exposure across multiple domains. Because fact of the matter is, I think it is important to realize that, by there is no program on this planet that is going to make you an expert in one domain. That is, let's say if you pick up financial and risk domain, right, risk analytics domain, there is no program that you can pursue and claim to be an expert in financial and risk analytics. The only way you can become an expert in financial and risk analytics is by working in that area for years altogether. So the objective of a program should not be to make you an expert in a domain, but the objective of the program should be to give you initiation in a domain so that you can continue your learning and get the opportunities that would probably make you an expert or give you a good experience. Now when you are trying to build this initiation, if you can actually build initiation across multiple domains, it helps the candidates because they get to know and they get to learn from leading organizations how analytics gets applied in different domains. I don't know how many of you would be able to appreciate this, but just think about it. When you get to learn from American Express and then from Absolute Data and then from eValueServe and then from Genpact and these leading organizations that are implementing analytics as a daily part of their jobs, the kind of realization that you get in terms of the exposure and the application is just immense. One thing that you would also realize as a part of this multi-domain exposure is that when, let's say, as a case in point, let's say when eValueServe is solving a telecom analytics problem, and let's say Amex is solving a credit card risk analytics problem, statistically the problem that eValueServe and Amex are solving may be very very similar, but because the domains are completely different and the nature of the problem is completely different, their approach varies, like their approach is poles apart, and that realization is actually worth $1 million to have, to actually see how your problem solving approach, your objective, your assumptions completely change with business context, right? And if you can actually gain that while doing the program, I think you would have successfully met the learning outcomes and also paved the way for a wonderful career for you well ahead. So hence that is the reason why we insist on multi-domain exposure, and it is something that is valued highly by our companies as well as by all candidates who pursue the program. Another factor that makes the program a favored program amongst all our candidates is the amount of program flexibility that exists. As most of you or all of you would know, that all sessions get recorded, all classroom sessions get recorded, and they are provided on the LMS within a couple of days itself, as soon as the rotation ends. And the reason for us to do this is a couple of things. Firstly, once you have attended the classroom and then you go back and you are actually working on assignments, you may want to go back and revisit the lecture as it happened. And these classroom recordings form the perfect amount of material for you to do that, so you don't have to waste any time taking notes or not focusing on what is being taught in the class. Secondly, we also give access to candidates even after the course is over. So even at a later point in time, when you want to go through the learning material, it is still there on the LMS, and you can come back and access the classroom recordings. So that gives a lot of flexibility to candidates. Beyond that, what also works is that for whatever reasons, if you are to miss a session or a lecture, you would not be completely in the blind, because you will still have access to what happened in the class, and you can go through these recordings and learn in terms of what was discussed, and then participate in the webinars that follow up, or participate on the question and answer discussion forums and get your queries resolved, or directly write to the program office and get your queries resolved by the faculty himself or herself. So all those options open up, and your learning doesn't stop because every classroom session in the program gets recorded. The other feature that we also have is webcasting, which means that if you're not able to physically be present on campus while the classroom sessions are happening, you will still be able to access it as a live streaming link, and you can learn with the class as it happens. Uh, Evaluations, being assignment based, are also a huge flexibility factor, because let's say if you're unable to finish off an assignment on time, or you're unable to clear off the assignment, you can request for another chance when the same course gets offered with the next batch, and finish off your assignments and get the required credits. We Beyond the classroom discussions or classroom hours, we also keep organizing regular webinars for Q&A addressal, which means you can the idea is that you learn in the classroom, you go back, you apply, you keep your learning on, and when you have queries, you come back and participate in these webinars and get your queries resolved. We always encourage faculty to we always encourage students to come back to campus and meet the faculty, and or write to the faculty and stay engaged with them for any queries that you have. We've also included a feature where we let candidates re-attend a session or a course or a module with any of our forthcoming batches. So let's say you had to miss a series of lectures because you were traveling or you were sent on site, and this is a very common use case that we get, and we are more than happy to welcome these candidates and allow them to re-attend the classes or the sessions or the modules that they want with any of our forthcoming batches, and there is really no penalization or no restriction that we impose on candidates for that, because our focus is that whatever flexibility you need for learning should be and will be provided within the program structure. But of course, the onus of learning is finally on the candidate himself or herself, right? But the program structure should not act as an obstacle, and to the contrary, it should actually enable your learning given your time constraints. One thing that is not written here is also, I mean, which also adds to flexibility, is that we do keep coming across instances where candidates have to move across campuses, because either because they get a new job and they relocate, or they are on a project and hence they move to another city, and we facilitate that. So while at the time of enrollment you must have begin in the Chennai campus, but let's say 3 months down the line, because of your work commitments or any personal reason, you are now moving to closer to NCR. You can actually continue your learning from the NCR campus, and similarly vice versa. And the way we are able to facilitate that and make that happen is because the course in entirety is the same across both campuses. So what you're learning and the learning objectives and the problem sets that you're handling are all similar across both campuses. In fact, a lot of the faculty are also similar. So we do have faculty, going from Chennai to Gurgaon and vice versa to teach. So as to ensure that the program quality and learning stays consistent across both campuses. So that is also a flexibility factor that you have, and you can exercise. And the last bit that I would like to kind of point out here is in terms of alumni benefits. So all PGPBA candidates are considered as Great Lakes alumni and are given full privileges as far as alumni status is concerned, which means that you have access to institute events, faculty resources, conferences. As Great Lakes alumni, you also have access to alumni portal and job boards. You would also, some of our candidates who were really focused on analytics and are research driven also go on to write papers, publish papers, and research articles with the faculty, and that is also completely allowed. In fact, we encourage that, and we, every year in the month of December, we hold an international conference in analytics in our Chennai campus, which is more of an academic conference, wherein we have leading intellectuals from across the world come in and present papers in analytics, and we've had cases where our students have presented papers from, so if the work done by the students is appreciated and is approved by the faculty panel, then candidates who are research driven will have the opportunity to actually present papers in this conference as well. And of course, there is the whole question of branding. So, Great Lakes as a school itself is has been consistently and continuously rising through the ranks as far as business rankings are concerned. And in the latest rankings that came out a few weeks back, amongst executive programs, Great Lakes was ranked within the top 10 by Business Today, Outlook, CNBC TV 18, and other leading publications. So essentially, being an alumni of and PGPBA, of course, is ranked within the top three, as I told you all earlier. So here is an opportunity to brand yourself as an alumnus from a top 10 business school, and I'm sure that goes a long way in opening doors and getting opportunities. So, the question at hand was in terms of what is unique about the program and how is this course different. And these are the factors, or these are the parameters that we covered. And just to quickly run all of you through it, we began with how the learning objective is different. How, here the learning objective is set as looking at unstructured data problems and converting them into business decisions, right? So there's a lot of focus on business tangibles and business decisions and data driven decisions in the program, for which of course you will use tools such as SAS or R or Tableau, right? But ultimately the idea is to skill you for the business side of analytics. The next bit was industry affiliations, how leading corporates have collaborated, supported, and are co-delivering the program, with Great Lakes, to ensure that what you are learning is highly industry relevant, and you are actually being industry ready or business ready once you finish the program. Application oriented learning is the pedagogy that we follow in the program. So every component of learning basically focuses on you applying what you have learned, whether it be evaluation, whether it be the virtual lab, whether it be capstone projects. Every step of the program, avenues are built so as to you can actually apply what you have learned and thereby showcase how much of the learning objective or outcomes have you achieved. Multi-domain exposure provides the unique possibility for a candidate to learn across different companies and across different domains, and thereby have the much wanted appreciation of how different leading companies solve analytics problems differently because of the difference in context, and also try and learn in terms of what are the industry best practices as far as these different companies and these different domains are concerned, which will only add value to you as a candidate. Program flexibility is completely designed around ensuring that you should have your learning continued just because of your work commitments or lack of time at any point in time at your end. Your learning in the program should not get hampered. So hence there is a lot of flexibility in terms of how you can access videos or how you can re-attend courses, uh, or how evaluations are assignment based and so on, or even how you can switch across campuses if need be, right? Just to ensure that all there is all the flexibility that we can provide to ensure that you keep your learning continuous. And finally, of course, are the Great Lakes alumni benefits. So we look at PGPBA as a specialized PG program in analytics, and that's the way we are branding it within the industry as well. So all candidates who graduate from the program get full-fledged alumni benefits, and have access to whether it be conferences, events, faculty, or job boards, or alumni portal, or any other benefits that an alumni from a top institution will have. So before I go to the next question, I think we can take a small pause here, and I can also there are some questions that have come my way, so I can also probably answer those. I have a question from Mr. Ilango. In terms, I can see that you have about 13 years of supply chain management experience in consulting and designing supply planning products, and you want to know how the program is going to help you on the analytics part. I think, Mr. Ilango, the experience that you have is fantastic. And supply chain analytics is, of course, one of the leading areas when analytics gets applied. And given the fact that you have the experience and the knowledge on the supply chain part, what you will now need is to build knowledge on the analytics part. And once you do that through the program, you would be in a position to actually come across as a candidate who is well trained and well skilled for supply chain analytics. And I think that is a fantastic field to be in as things stand today. And the way we do that is in terms of courses, of course, apart from all the analytics courses that you are going to learn through the program, you would also begin by learning a context on supply chain in terms of how analytics is applied there. Then you go into learning analytics, taking a deep dive into analytics, and getting your hands dirty on the tools that are used. And finally, again, through industry applied modules where supply chain analytics is taught, you will get to learn in terms of how are companies tackling problems in supply chain analytics, and what are some of the actual problems that are being solved. For example, in the previous batch where supply chain analytics was taught, we had the team from Accenture teach it. So these are again leading companies that are coming into the classroom and doing a very industry focused immersion, very highly relevant and highly application oriented immersion for candidates. And another area where you can actually or another avenue of the program through which you can actually build your context even further is the Capstone project. So uh, through the Capstone project, you can choose which domain you want to pursue your project in, and looking at your background, you should actually pursue the project in supply chain analytics, which will again give you the opportunity and the platform to do an actual project under the guidance and mentorship of Great Lakes faculty and an industry faculty in supply chain analytics. So these are the different avenues through which you can build competence in supply chain analytics, and secondly, you can also work on some actual live problems in the industry. I have another question from Arun in terms of I can see that you're currently working in the field of CRM, Arun, and you want to be a techno-functional consultant, and you're currently working with Wipro. So, your profile, the way I see it right now, meets about 40 to 50% of our candidates come with profiles very similar to yours, wherein they're in technology roles in a particular domain, and they want to add analytical skill sets to move either to a techno commercial or a functional role in analytics. And we have seen such transitions happen in the program. In fact, my next few slides are all about career transitions, and I'm sure that when I kind of discuss that in detail, that point would be even clearer. But the good news is that your exposure is on CRM, or existing exposure is on CRM, which is a very relevant area for analytics. And CRM analytics is something is I think after financial and risk analytics, CRM analytics is probably the largest area of analytics work that companies in India are doing. So having that domain exposure definitely helps, and adding analytical knowledge and analytical skill set to your candidature, and thereby adding that to your profile will only help you transition to a techno-commercial role in the area of CRM analytics. I think it's a real possibility, and especially if you're working in Wipro, then Wipro has a fantastic team in analytics, which it is growing by the day. And in fact, we are in very, I think we are at the final stages of discussions with the Wipro analytics team, and if things go as planned, we may very well very soon see Wipro also as a corporate partner in this program. And I think doing the program is only going to add that capability to you as a candidate and make that transition happen for you. So Ashok, I have a question from you in terms of as a part of the PGPBA program, do the candidates who get an opportunity to work on projects? So that is precisely the Capstone project, which you pursue along with the program. And Capstone project gets mentored by industry faculty as well as Great Lakes faculty. So that is, and it's a 4 to 5 month long project which you do parallelly with the program. So while you're working on the project, you would be constantly monitored by senior professionals from the analytics industry as well as from Great Lakes faculty, and that is an opportunity for you to work with the industry. Paramjeet, I have a question from you in terms of the program structure. So, and in terms, I think what the question that you really want to ask is in terms of how much of learning happens online and how much of learning happens through classroom. So, if you look at the total number of learning hours as per the curriculum goes, the program needs about 330 hours of learning. And this does not include any self-study learning, by the way. So it does not factor any time that you have to spend on assignments or evaluations or learning the tool and so on. These hours are completely calibrated on the basis of learning content. So out of 330 hours, 240 hours are spent in classroom. So we have 240 hours of classroom contact sessions and another close to 100 hours of online learning, right? So that is the way it is split. So most of the learning still happens in the classroom. Online is where you apply a lot of these learnings. So online is where you will get to work on a lot of these data problems. You'll use the virtual lab and work on problems and so on. Right. So I can see that most of the questions that I have here are all around career transitions and profiles from candidates and so on, which I think will get clarified with my next section, which is all around how career transitions have happened in the program and what are the activities that we do. But before that, let me just take a last set of questions that I'm here. So there are a few some of you who have asked in terms of how does this whole webinar and live streaming and recording thing work. Uh, So as I was telling you earlier during my earlier slide that if if candidates are unable to attend a given session or a part of a rotation because of work commitments, there are different flexibility factors which include live streaming. So which means you can always log into our live streaming link and see the class as it happens. Alternatively, once the rotation is over, that is once the campus day is over, within a couple of days itself, we also upload the recorded videos, which will have all the classroom lectures, and you can always also pursue them as also. Uh, See, we do not keep any tab on attendance. So the program completion criteria does not include that you should have 70% or 80% of attendance. The program completion criteria, what it measures is that you should complete all evaluations, and unless and until you complete all evaluations, you obviously cannot graduate from the program, right? So attendance is not really marked or put there as a criteria. But having said that, these factors that we put in, whether it be live streaming or recording, is not put in as an avenue for you to miss classes, but is put as a flexibility factor for you, that in the event that you miss classes, you should still be able to learn, right? So what we always advise candidates is that obviously when you come to class and you learn, there is the best learning that can happen. But however, for whatever reasons, if you're not able to make it, you will have these options. So it is kind of important to prioritize these in that context. Arvind Kumar Sachdev, I believe you are having some problem with the audio bit. I'm asking my team to check, but I really don't think that it is a problem from our end. As far as of course, all candidates are on mute at this point in time, if you've not realized. So you'll have to type out your questions, because otherwise it becomes very hard to moderate, right? But please do check at your end. I don't think we have done, or there are any issues from our end here. All right. So now let me go to the next part, which is uh, a question that I'm sure a lot of you have, and from the questions that I can see popping up on my screen, that seems to be the case. Uh, how does the course help me in my career, right? How can I get career transitions, or how do people get career transitions in the program, right? So before that, let me be very honest and tell you in terms of what we don't do, before I go ahead and tell you of all the things that we do. um, I find it highly discomforting when candidates use terms such as placements assured or placements guaranteed, because I always try and tell candidates that stay away from institutions or organizations that use such falsified terms, because there can be no guarantees, right? I mean, the best of institutions will have no guarantees for any kind of programs, because obviously they are not in a position to give guarantees, right? So first of all, let's keep these kind of terms away, right? To begin with, in terms of what we don't do, is that we don't do a structured placement process, if that is the expectation. That is what I'm trying to say, is that a structured placement process is when companies descend onto the campus on a given day and conduct interviews and so on. So that is something that we don't do in the program. There are a couple of reasons for that. The first reason is that we have a fair share of sponsored candidates in the program, who are sponsored by their employers, and they are they are liable to go back to the sponsoring organizations to continue their work. That is one. The other bit is that not everybody in the program is actually looking for a career transition. So only about 30 to 35% of our batch would be looking for career transitions, because there is a fair share of senior professionals, and there are a fair share of professionals from the analytics industry who are actually looking to do the program to add value to their business or their current roles, and are not actively looking for a career transition, right? So hence it is again not as if everybody is looking for this. And even in that 30 to 35% of the candidates who are looking for career transitions, their experience ranges are very different, so it becomes very hard to do a uniform process, because it would be unfair on many candidates. So hence that is something that we don't do. Now, with that context, let me also focus on all the things that we do. So, what we do comes under the ambit of, as we call it, career enhancement services. You may call it career assistance or placement assistance or whatever. But broadly, these are broken down into two fronts of activities. The first front is in terms of how do we prepare candidates for careers in analytics, right? And beyond whatever learning that happens in the program in terms of through different courses, we also focus on a series of high impact workshops. It begins with a workshop on careers in analytics itself that actually focuses on what are the different roles that exist within the analytics industries and within companies. What are the different companies in an that are working, and what are the kind of work that they're doing, and what do you have to do to transition. So all these are covered in the first workshop, that is careers in analytics. And the outcome of this workshop is that as a candidate, you should have clarity in terms of, all right, this is the kind of role that I should be targeting basis my work experience. These are the kind of organizations that I should be targeting basis my experience and knowledge and what I'm learning in the program. And this is this should be my preferred way to transition, right? The next workshop after that, what we do is how to build a analytics resume. So that again focuses on what are the kind of things that companies are looking for in lateral talent in analytics, and how do you kind of focus on those skill sets on your resume. uh, the third workshop that we do after that is on interview preparation and critical problem solving, which actually discusses case studies that are used for recruitments by analytics companies, and walking you through them. And all these workshops are done by industry faculty. So basically these are people from the analytics industry who are doing this for a living, right? So hence whatever you're learning here is highly impactful and highly relevant. So that is all in terms of preparing you for careers in analytics. The next front that we do and we very actively work upon is access to opportunities. How do we ensure that candidates get opportunities that they can capitalize on. The first bit that we do and very actively do is, because of the fact that we are collaborated with leading organizations, and the program itself is highly recognized and is gaining in recognition within the industry. We keep getting requests from companies that are recruiting for lateral hires, and they reach out to us with job descriptions for positions that they are hiring, and we pass on these job descriptions to the batch. And the interested candidates can send us the resumes, and we pass it on to the company, and then the process is between the company and the candidate. So that is something that happens a lot in the program and something that we do very actively. In fact, as recent as the last 5 to 6 days itself, we've had Genpact and Value Labs, reach out to us with job descriptions across different profiles and across different experience ranges and stuff. And the candidates have been advised to apply and take the process further. So that is something that keeps happening as you are in the program. Another way where we have seen and I must also say that is something where transitions have happened and outcomes have happened, right? So it is not as if that doesn't result or that doesn't give results. It in fact drives a fair bit of results. The other way where we have seen a lot of transitions happen has been through capstone projects, and especially this is especially true if you're working in IT services or consulting or organizations where you have an active analytics team within, right? So when you are pursuing the capstone project, you have an option to do the capstone project with your existing employer. And a lot of our candidates actually take that route, wherein Great Lakes helps them get a project or finalize a project with their existing employer in analytics. And Great Lakes faculty also mentors them during the project. But what really happens by you doing your capstone project with your existing employer is that your brand visibility improves and increases a lot, right? And that gives you or that builds the visibility within your organization, and you get earmarked as a candidate or a professional who's getting trained in analytics. So we've had several candidates from IT services companies like Cognizant, like Wipro, like TCS, like HCL, Infosys. consulting companies like KPMG and others, where candidates have actually pursued projects with their own organizations, and that actually has paved the path for them to transition to analytics teams within their organizations. Another activity that we pursue, which also leads to outcomes, as we've seen, are all the industry guests who participate in the classroom session. So whether while you are in the program, every time you come to campus, you would at least end up interacting or learning from two to three industry guests, either as guest lectures or as towards the end of the program as full-fledged courses. Right now, whenever the industry folks are on campus and they interact with the batch, these opportunities also give the candidates a platform to network and showcase their relevant skill sets to these partnering organizations or these industry leaders. And we've seen that these discussions have led to sharing of opportunities and in some cases even outcomes. Right. So the reason why the industry is participating in such good numbers is also because they are also looking for talent. And if you can showcase yourself as a relevant candidate for them, they would be more than happy to take that discussion and that engagement forward. And the last bit of avenue through which we have seen transitions happen has been through peer networking. Now, as I briefly stated earlier, that one of the admission guidelines look at uh, is to look at different diversity factors and to ensure that the batch is a diverse batch, right? So as things stand, about close to about 25% of our class are actually senior professionals who are more often than not looking to recruit or ramp up their teams. And we have had several instances where these senior professionals have gone on to recruit from the batch itself, where they've recruited batchmates to begin with. We've had several instances where people have may got outcomes because of employee referrals happening. And so all these, the peer networking factor also really helps in getting opportunities. So that is the bit on access to opportunity. So just to kind of summarize that, in the way we have seen outcomes happen and the way candidates have got successful outcomes has been, a lot of them have been driven by companies sharing job descriptions with the batch and looking to recruit from the batch, and that is between the company and the candidate. Once we get these JDs, we share it with the batch, and if you think that you are a good candidate, you can go ahead and apply, and the process will happen as it happens. The other bit that has worked a lot are the capstone projects through which people use to transition from their existing roles to analytics roles within their own organizations, thereby making a transition. The third bit that has given or driven outcomes has been interacting and networking and showcasing your skill sets and expertise to the industry guests who participate in the classroom. And the final bit that, of course, has worked has been peer networking, wherein you get opportunities from batchmates itself. Right. So these are broadly the four avenues through which we have seen outcomes happen in the batch, and these only keep increasing as we go along. So I hope that kind of does answer questions to the point that how do career outcomes happen in the program. Uh, one caveat that I'd like to put out there and put out there very honestly is that, see, the way the program is designed is that it has to be industry relevant, right? That is why we have gone out of the way and collaborated with so many organizations to put together this curriculum and deliver it. So companies treat PGPBA as a platform to evaluate and identify candidates they want to engage with, and candidates, through PGPBA program have the opportunity to learn and showcase their skill sets to leading organizations, right? And through a bunch of avenues that I discussed earlier, we PGPBA does result in career transitions for its participants. But having said that, the final onus is always on the candidate, right? So what you have to realize is that any good program, for that matter, can only give you opportunities and can only prepare you for these opportunities. But that final conversion is the onus of the candidate, and you have to learn and you have to be skilled to get those opportunities and convert those opportunities. At the end of the day, no company is going to hire you because you're coming from the PGPBA program. They will give you the opportunity because you're coming from the PGPBA program and because the program is respected. But ultimately, they'll hire you only if you're a good fit. And the onus is for you to prove that you are a good fit for that role and for that organization. All right, so that is that is something that I'd like to put out in the open. Also, just as I told you that we don't do a structured process wherein on a designated day companies will come to campus and start doing recruitments. Similarly, for all the processes that we do, even when we share JDs and share resumes with the company, the process is done by the recruiting company, right? So we don't get into any kind of negotiations on offer or location or role or profile, either for the company or for the candidate, right? We only act as a platform wherein we try and get more and more companies to share opportunities with the batch. But all of you are working professionals with several years of work experience, and you know what is best for you. So hence, we believe that you have the requisite ability and the maturity to negotiate and conclude on opportunities with these organizations. Right. So this slide focuses on some of the examples through which outcomes have happened, and which are essentially this very similar to what we were discussing earlier about how we've had candidates converting these job descriptions shared by companies, how we've had candidates using capstone projects to transition from tech roles or consulting roles to analytics roles within their organizations, how we've had examples of batchmates recruiting batchmates or giving referrals and that leading to opportunities, and finally how there also have been examples of all these industry guests coming and interacting with the batch, and how that opens up opportunities for candidates. Rules after PGPBA. So this is also a common question that comes my way, and we've focused a lot on business skills or business roles in PGPBA. But what are these kind of roles? So you know, business roles and analytics actually exist all through the value chain. So it is not as if they are restricted only at the entry level or so, but they are all through there. They begin right from business analyst levels, depending upon your experience and where you stand. You can begin from a business analyst to a senior business analyst. In some companies, you will also have terms as pricing analyst or marketing analyst and so on. There are with more experience, you can become manager analytics or engagement manager or account managers. You can also start exploring functional roles such as business development or sales or project management or program management. There are also consultant positions within consulting companies in analytics. Some of the organizations, especially MNCs, have also started using terms such as data scientists, which again is a combination of some of the roles that are mentioned above. You also have other roles such as marketing analytics managers and so on. And then you also have the leadership roles in analytics, right? So whether it be vice president and so on, or senior managers and so on, so all that track also exists. One dipstick study that I would request all of you to do is that do uh, kind of go across analytics organizations, see the open jobs, and you would see that about close to 30% of the open jobs would require candidates to have a good understanding of business, that is business scenarios, general management, analytics knowledge, and industry exposure. And those are precisely the business roles that I'm talking about. And the way things stand, that about 30% of the open roles that would exist are actually business roles, which is where the industry is struggling a lot to hire. And that is why there is an opportunity out there in the market. So now I am proceeding towards wrapping up this webinar. So these are the last few slides. Bear with me for the next 5 minutes or so. Some of you have already asked here in terms of how should you prepare for the course and how can you begin your learning. Uh, while there are a few things that you can do, let me also tell you that it is not mandatory for you to do these, because once you begin your program, we will begin from ground up. So we will begin right from the very basics, assuming that you know very little of courses such as statistics, or you have forgotten whatever you learned earlier, right? So that there is no hindrance or obstacle to your learning. But one thing that you can really do is start being more sensitive, or start being more knowledgeable about the business impact of analytics. So start reading about how analytics is changing businesses. And every day that you pick up a newspaper, especially the business news, I can assure you there'll be at least one article out there which talks about how data is changing the world of business, right? And not just business, even just a few days back, Economic Times carried an article on how analytics is changing governance, for that matter, right? And governance is a huge area where analytics gets applied. So start reading about the business of analytics, and that will really widen your horizons. One way to do that, one good source for that, is by subscribing to the Great Lakes newsletter that is there on the website. You can go ahead and subscribe it. We already have over 10,000 subscribers for the newsletter. This is something that we send out every Friday, which is a curated set of articles from the world of analytics world over, and that will open up your mind to what is the latest that is happening in the business of analytics. You can also start following analytics blogs, such as Analytics India Magazine or Analytics Vidya. These, they also cover a series of good articles, well researched articles. If you are more academically inclined, I would suggest, it is good if you start brushing up the basics of statistics, right? But as I said, it is not mandatory. It is optional. If you have the time and you are academically inclined, you can do that. And there are a lot of resources for you to do that online, free resources. So just look up those resources and start reading basic statistics, so that when you come to the classroom, that aversion is taken care of. Some of you have also asked here in terms of the class profile. What is the kind of class profile that